Welcome back to the Fulfilled Female Entrepreneur Podcast. It's your host, Cassandra Rosa. I'm a certified coach and healer and intuitive business coach, and the mission behind all that I do is to help you to create a fulfilling life and business. Today, I'm excited to have Tasha Stevens speak about hormone health and how you can optimize it to become more productive. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm so excited to be talking with Tasha today and to hear all about her beautiful area of expertise and knowledge to be shared. I want to start off, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to hear more about your story and all the wisdom for us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I am so excited. I truly have listened to a couple of episodes and I love the content being an entrepreneur myself. So exciting.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm excited to introduce you to Tasha. She's an integrative clinical nutritionist and a founder of the Happy Hormone Health. She has coached 2,000 women in reclaiming their energy, living symptom-free, and transforming their health through hormone balance nutrition. She's going to be explaining what that means on the podcast today. And I'm going to leave a link to all of her socials. She loves to hang out on IG. So go over there, give her a follow, show her some love. And I'm excited to learn about this for me too, because as an entrepreneur, that, changed my lifestyle from being like a go, go, go kind of 9 to 5 girly to being at home and having that lifestyle change. I started to learn more as I'm scrolling on IG about hormone health. So I'm excited to hear directly from the source in this amazing way. And yeah, I'm excited to learn more. So this podcast is all about fulfillment and entrepreneurship and creating a platform for you to share your genius and your expertise. But I love to ask all the guests, what does fulfillment mean to you?
Oh, I love that question. And of course, like as a nutritionist, I think I always tie it back to nutrition and nourishment. And fulfillment means to me, like really nourishing every single aspect of your life, right? Not just, of course, your body and, with movement and food, but also connecting to the right energy, people, experiences, things that fill your cup. Because when it comes to, stepping into your best self and your best health, right? It's not just, textbook diets or whatever. You have to be, everything in your life has to bring you some kind of joy. And I truly believe that investing in these type of relationships and this opportunity to network like this, right? Or listening to podcasts that help you recognize your capabilities, all of that is how you really fulfill your life, right?
I love that. And I never had someone tie nutrition into their definition. So I love that. It's very authentic of you to include that. And with all that you do with nutrition and hormone health and helping women, what is the most fulfilling part for you in the process?
Oh my gosh. It is seeing the light bulb kick off for them, right? I remember living in the same space, right? When I was 23, I was so sick. And we'll get into my origin story, I guess, as you call it. But I remember feeling out of hope and lost and just like, this can't be it, right? And so many women, I've had the opportunity to support literally thousands of women across the world. And we're all connected by that unique experience of just being told that our symptoms are normal or being stuck at certain points of our life where we don't feel like we're our best selves. And when I get to support these women and I see them see this transformation in themselves and I see them see that it's possible for them, right? That it's truly possible to break free of those self-limiting beliefs, to step into that next level version of themselves, to nourish their systems and souls to be able to do that. Like, God, it's honestly, it makes me cry. I'm not a crier. I literally am not a crier, but I will have tears of joy just seeing these women find their best potential. And so I'm so honored, and that fills my cup to be able to support them on their journey.
I love that. That whole energy of possibility is so powerful, especially when it comes to our health. I know for me personally, and talking to so many people in our lives, we can often fall victim to it and be really confused because, like what you were saying, of that's normal, like hearing that over and over, right? So, that can be very daunting for people when they're going through life and they're having that crash every single day in the middle of the day, or they're trying to lose weight and it's not falling off, or whatever those cases may be. It's that discouragement energy. So it's so powerful that you're able to create that energy of possibility for people to, be that breakthrough and have those light bulb moments to be able to transform their lives, which is so beautiful. And I'd love to know just a little bit of what got you into this work.
Oh, yeah. It's been a journey. Like, I do want to preface, I always tell people, like, I was that kid that was obsessed with health, like when I was young. I did my first workout program when I was like 9, Turbo Jam, Beachbody, if you know, you know. And then I read Teen Vogue, read, I think, about a low carb diet at the time, and I was hooked, I have to tell you. I was just constantly searching for like, what's that secret? What's that like magical thing that's going to make me feel better and be like my best self? But my health really declined by the time I was like 14, 16. I had a traumatic surgery. I almost lost my life. And after that, like I was fine. Obviously, I like came through, pulled through, but after that, my health was horrible. Like I'm talking, I was exhausted all the time. I was going to the bathroom literally like 10 plus times a day. I had rashes all over my body. And like I was in high school. So can you imagine just like having like rashes, like as a senior in high school? I was so embarrassed. I wore all of these like layers on layers. And every single time I went to the doctor, they just were like, it's normal. Nothing looks wrong. Everything's within range. Like, here's some steroid treatments, take some Pepto-Bismol, like just constantly was brushed off. And so when I got to step into college, I was like, I'm going to study nutrition. Like I'm going to figure this out myself. Like, gosh darn it. And by the time I was 19, I was so sick, I ended up like weighing 90 pounds because I couldn't keep food down. I got diagnosed with my first 2 autoimmune conditions at that point. And I thought, like, okay, like maybe this is it. Maybe I'll know. Maybe I'll figure it out, right? And it just kept getting worse. By the time I was 23, I gained 30 pounds in a single month. So I like completely swung the other way and I went from like, a healthy weight for my body to gaining 30 pounds in a single month. I had crippling anxiety. I couldn't go to work. I had terrible periods on birth control. Like every part of me was broken and every part of my life broke as a result of that, right? I was too anxious to be in relationships. I ended up ending a 5-year relationship because I like couldn't connect. I ended up like barely making it in my dream job that I landed after college because I was so sick. And no matter what, I just kept getting brushed off. Like everything's normal. Everything's fine. You're fine. And I was just like, no, I'm not. Like at this point, I was armed with a degree. I had gotten my Pilates certification and training. Like I was like, hey, I know that something is not right. I refuse to accept your answers. And upon tapping into my resources where I worked with my integrative registered dietitian, tapping into professors that I had, tapping into just my own research, I really rooted in that, all of this was stemming from hormone imbalance. And I remember telling my doctors that as a kid, like, hey, my hormones are off. Hey, my period's terrible. Hey, this feels awful. And they're like, everybody suffers with that. Like, that's normal. That's fine. And so I said enough is enough. And when I really started to understand the influence of our hormones and I really started to connect, how do we adapt? How do I eat? How do I move? How do I change everything in my life to support those systems that regulate hormone production? I stepped into my best health and it was literally night and day. Now, mind you, like I ended up, I have 6 autoimmune conditions now, but I manage all 6 of my autoimmune conditions entirely medication free.
Wow.
I've been off of anxiety medication for 7 years. Um, Literally, they told me I would not be able to have a daughter or get pregnant because I was so sick. And I got pregnant the very first day I came off of birth control and with her, and she's
Wow.
healthy and strong and vibrant. And I've been able to now coach thousands of other women in really addressing that root cause and kind of breaking away from that idea that nutrition, fitness, all of that is some type of punishment to force our body to be a particular way. And really, like I said, stepping into nutrition, fitness, that's all fulfillment. That's how we give our bodies, our lives exactly what it needs to thrive. And it's been literally like, and I always say I would never have had the opportunity to even open my own coaching business and step into this space or had the confidence to do so if I didn't finally feel good. So it's been amazing.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And it's like so miraculous just to hear
Mhm.
of how difficult it must have been for you and all those diagnoses and feeling unseen and unheard by the professionals that are supposed to make us feel healthy. So it's so powerful that you took all of those experiences and you really transformed them in what you do now and helping other women and sharing all these miraculous breakthroughs that you've had in your story is just something that will help other women feel seen and heard and appreciated as they're listening to this. So that's so, so miraculous and so beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Yeah, no, I mean, I think so many women struggle, and I know even as entrepreneurs, like especially, right, there is so much stress. There's
Mhm.
so much pressure, and all of that can impact how we're able to show up for our goals and our business and how we show up for ourselves and other aspects of our life, right? And so even just kind of fine tuning that and really thinking that recognizing, I guess I would say that like your health is an equal part of your success to your business as it is, your whatever aesthetic goals, right? That might be like really breaking health away from it's just this aesthetic thing, or it's just this, I want to feel better to when you do truly feel better, when you know how to really tap into what your body needs, then that does manifest into the other aspects of your life and definitely into the big, big, big goals that we have as entrepreneurs.
Oh, totally. And I can't wait to talk more about this, but let's just take it back for people that are
Yeah.
listening that aren't familiar with hormones and how
Right.
that can affect your health, like how hormones, you can maybe even share about with your own personal experience, how hormones were creating these symptoms that
Absolutely.
are normal, right? Of what
Yeah.
people are saying. So what is like what are hormones? Like, let's just set the stage by sharing some of the basics. So we're on the
I
same.
always I always preface this conversation with everything that we learned in health class is wrong. Like, I mean, maybe not entirely wrong, but it definitely was a disservice to women. And a lot of that does stem from women not being included in studies for until about the 1990s for health, nutrition, fitness. But as women, our hormone cycle is so much more than our period, right? Our period is a fifth vital sign of health for us. And so having a healthy, regular, symptom-free period is indicative of like you're in a very amazing space in your health. But so many of us think that, okay, a period's just that, right? But we actually have four distinct hormone phases that we move through each and every month. And across those hormone phases, your hormone levels rise and fall. And that directly impacts your ability to burn fat. It impacts your metabolic rate. It impacts your ability to handle particular intensities in a workout. It impacts your energy, your willingness or desire to socialize, and it does impact your productivity levels too. And
Mm.
so often we try to fit into these molds that we're like, okay, we got to do the same thing every single day. Like I got to get up and I got to be as productive. I got to eat the same foods, the same amount of foods. I got to go as hard at the gym. And then I got to go to sleep and wake up and do it all over again. But that doesn't work for women. It works for men. And that's how society was created because men have a 24-hour hormone cycle. Women have a 28-day hormone cycle. And so across those phases, all of those changes need to be honored, right? And so I always like to give like a brief like lowdown on what those phases are. So
Please.
your menstrual phase, I think is pretty self-explanatory, right? That's when we bleed. And even though that marks the start of a new cycle, I always like to think of it as marking the end because whether you think it or not, right, or know it or not, or trying or not, your body is always trying to get pregnant. It's number one goal, or number two, second to keeping you alive. So when we go into our menstrual phase, all of our hormones drop to their lowest level. Your metabolic rate is super high because your body's trying to replenish these stores of nutrients loss. And your body is kind of in this really protective state, saying, like, I am going to rest, nourish, so that when I step into my next like potential opportunity to get pregnant, I am strong, I am viable, I'm ready, right?
Hmm. Okay.
Then our follicular phase kind of starts right when the bleeding is over. And it's about 5 days, and I call it our spring because as your hormone levels rise, so does your energy, so does your creativity, your brainstorming capabilities. Like you're alive, you want to try new things, you're excited, you're inspired, you feel like your body is awakening.
Mhm.
And then that's also when your egg is getting prepared and strong to head into ovulation. And then once you step into your ovulatory phase, which is like our summer, that's when our testosterone and estrogen peak to the highest. So, like, we're feeling hot and heavy, right? You're feeling sexy, confident. You feel like communicating, putting yourself out there, going to networking events, hosting a party, going on dates, getting yourself connected to people around you, right? Then, after ovulation, that's when that egg is released. And ideally, your body's thinking it's going to get fertilized. And so you enter your luteal phase. Estrogen and testosterone drop, and progesterone, which is your progestation hormone, rises.
Okay.
In this space, your body shifts to like, hey, I need to slow down. I need to make sure that we have all the rest, nutrients, things that we need to protect this potential egg, right? So you go into a little bit more introverted. You're feeling super productive because of progesterone. You want to get things done. You maybe want more intimate connections. And that would kind of remain that way until if you're not pregnant, then you go right back into your menstrual phase. And so across that, all of that really, really plays into a part of how you feel and how you can show up in your life. And you can use that in the best way possible.
I love that. That was explained so simply. I feel like I got it, the light bulb moment, and I'm like thinking about my own life. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes
Ex-
sense. Of,
Yeah,
like the natural flow, or when you're not in alignment with that, how productivity, you might drag your feet, or the
my God.
workout might feel so difficult and you're like out of breath when you're not normally, like, what the heck is going on here? Or, those light bulb moments, how I would find certain times in the month, they would like, bing, all these creative ideas come through. So
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense now.
it
Mhm.
really does. And I mean, of course, like there are times where, like, if you feel disruptions or symptoms in each phase, like that's a sign that something's off, right? Hormones are these chemical messengers that help to communicate messages across each system, right? I always like to think of it. It's like, you remember that game Telephone when you were a kid where you like whispered something and then like down the
Mhm.
line? That's kind of what hormones do. They have a message and they go from system to system and they communicate whatever they need to. When hormones become disrupted, then they carry the wrong messages to the systems. And as a result, the systems do the wrong thing. And so it can become this like cascading snowballing effect where all of a sudden you can have so much hormone and system disruption that you just have this like screeching halt on your body. And when we see that and all of that disruption, that's when even just doing things a little bit out of alignment with your body can be devastating because your body's already like, I can't. And then it adds more stress and it just overwhelms it.
So what would be some telltale signs, like physically or mentally, that your hormones are disrupted, that there's some sort of dysregulation happening?
Absolutely. So the easiest telltale sign, right, is okay, what's your period doing? Like that is a report card from your body every single month.
Mm.
So if you have a missing period, red flag, right? If you have really heavy, heavy periods that are painful, that can be a sign of estrogen dominance, right? If you have a lot of spotting, that can be a sign of low progesterone. But other things I tell my clients to look for, like across the month, are like, what are your energy levels, right? If you're feeling floored every single day, exhausted all the time, that can be a sign that your body's like in adrenal overload and working in overdrive, right? If you find that you have a lot of PMS and moodiness like 2 weeks leading up to your period, right? That can be a sign that there's disruption. Even sometimes things like watching your cervical fluid. Like some people are like, oh, TMI, but really, like if you can't tell that you're ovulating, then that could be a sign that there's going to be disruption down the line. So those are I feel like the easiest ones to pinpoint. Like, what's your energy throughout the entirety of the month? What's happening leading up to your period? And then what happens during your period, right? All of those give you a really, really good indication of like, hey, this is what my body's telling me, and this is how I can support it.
Mm. That's good. It's good to know those signs early on so you don't get to like the worst case scenarios. So like for clients that come to you that maybe they ignored those signs and they're at like the sirens are going off, what would that look like in the body that for people?
Oh, I mean, everyone is different, but I think some of the biggest thing that women experience is like, okay, they're exhausted 24/7.
Mhm.
Um, they feel a lot of PMS leading up to their period, like in every, like migraines, breast swelling, bloating, cramping, any of those telltale signs. For my women where it's like all the alarms are going off, if there's resistance to losing weight or the body changing in any way, because like weight is not always the best indicator, but like if your body is not changing in any way, then that can be a sign that your body has high cortisol and it's holding on to inflammation and body fat as a protective measure,
Mhm.
right? If hair loss, things like that, all of these things that have been dubbed like normal for women, or like, oh yeah, I got brittle nails, or like, oh yeah, you gain weight with age, or oh yeah, like you're just a mom, you're supposed to feel tired. Absolutely not, right? Those are signs that your body's like, hey, I need help.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and we don't want to get there. And for many people, when you're ignoring and you're having that lack of self-awareness, maybe because you're so go, go, go with your
Mhm.
business, or you're a mom and like everybody, all the focus is on someone else instead of you, that's when things can be swept under the rug. So definitely rewind, listen to those kind of warning signs, look at incorporating more self-awareness with yourself so that you can avoid getting to, the end of the line where the sirens are going crazy. So when it comes to like hormone balancing, right? Before we get into the activity piece, when it comes into being more aware of this 28-day cycle that you're sharing, what are some ways for women to kind of lean into that 28-day cycle personally? And then how can they lean into that 28-day cycle when it comes to their business and their productivity?
Absolutely. So the best place to start, like to even start into that leaning in,
Mhm.
is I ask my clients to like start with a journaling exercise, right? Every single day at the end of your day, write down a few things that you notice. Like let's get in touch with our bodies a little bit. Like what was your energy that day? Were you tired? Were you angry? Were you productive? Right? What symptoms did you experience? Um, did you have any cervical fluid? Right? If you had all of that, like even just your energy across your phases can help you figure out where are you in your cycle. Because that's the biggest, I think, learning curve for most women is that, okay, it's more than just my period. I know that I have these 4 phases now, but how do I know which cycle I'm in? And especially for my women who are like, I haven't had a period in a while, or it's really irregular, like, how would I know? Of course, looking at your last cycle and trying to track your days from that is a really helpful way to start. But if you have a lot of irregularity, or if you're like, I just don't know, looking in and tapping into, you're like, okay, yeah, today I was really energetic. I was really creative. Oh, okay, that lines up because my period ended a few days ago. Like, so that's my follicular phase. Or, oh no, today all I wanted to do was get all my admin tasks done. And I felt really like I hate my coworkers. Like, don't you call me. Like, then that you mean that you're in your luteal phase, right? Um, and I have a couple, I always recommend like if you're starting on this journey, you can use like the Flow app or the Kindara app. They both have free versions, and they're a wonderful way to start tracking your cycle because they can even tell you like, oh, predicted ovulations here. So you could start to say like, okay, these are my phases and really map it, right? And that's how you start to lean into it, right? That's how you start to say, like, okay, I now see these changes in my body. And sometimes, like, what's that phrase? Like, knowledge is power, right? Just the
Yeah.
acknowledgement of, like, hey, I feel different today. And like, I'm honoring that that's okay. Like, that's really helpful. Then once you tap into that, right? Once you're like, okay, I now know where my phases are and I now know what they look like, that's when you can start to use them to be your superpower is my, favorite term. Because we do, like you said, like alluded to, we have this productivity rates that influence exactly how we can show up in our lives and our business. And I love to tap into this. Use it myself personally
Mhm.
for as much as possible, right? It's not perfect, but for navigating how I plan and operate my business and how I show up, right? So, like we mentioned, when you're in your follicular phase, that is a wonderful time to lean into like your creativity.
Mhm.
I love to block off time in my calendar to say, like, I am going to brainstorm new ideas. I'm going to throw spaghetti on the wall here. I'm going to write out all of my social media ideas, maybe not the nitty gritties, but what do I want to talk about? What do I want to post about? What seems fun? Tap into that creativity. Maybe try something new. Maybe go look up new networking groups to join. All of that, when you're feeling excited, is a great thing to do. Then, as you step into your ovulatory phase, that's when your communication's really high. That's when you want to be out in the world. I try to I try to book all of my speaking events, all of my podcast collaborations, all of that during my ovulatory phase, because that's when I feel really good. And so in your business, that's a great time to have sales calls, network with other, women or entrepreneurs. It's a wonderful time to go to networking events in person. Um, Also, this is a great time to meet with your staff. I don't personally, I always love to joke. I am very much one of those like leader visionary people, but I'm not the best at managing staff. So I book all of my times to meet with my staff then when I feel like communicating, when I feel like connecting. And then when you step into your luteal phase, I always say that's the best time to take all of those ideas that you came up with and you cultivated in the follicular phase and now get them done,
Oh, wow.
right?
Mhm.
So like say recently I just did this. I am launching a new e-course, right? And so
Mhm.
I came up with the idea, I mapped it out, I got excited about it in my follicular phase. And then in my luteal phase, I started to actually write the content because that's when I could get my brain to focus enough to sit down and do that administrative nitty-gritty, get things done.
Mm.
It's also a great time to like balance the books or organize your calendar. Anything on your to-do list that requires a little bit more like tact and focus, that's what progesterone like thrives in. And
Mm.
then as you head into your menstrual phase, right? The end of the month, and this is so perfect. I love how our bodies wrap it up for us. You're
Mhm.
naturally really introspective. And I mean, have you ever been in your period and
Mm.
been kind of like, woe is me, the world is ending, I wasn't good enough, kind of gotten into those thoughts?
Mhm.
That can be sometimes when you're a little bit going too negative in your menstrual phase, but we want to lean into that introspective, like, let's reflect on how the month went. How did we show up for ourselves? How did we show up for our goals? What were some things that were amazing and where were some opportunities for growth? And jotting all of that down, then you can step into your follicular phase, right back to it and say, okay, here are my opportunities for growth. Here are my ideas to make it happen. And then the cycle repeats and you're always perpetuating your own growth because of it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Very full circle. Now I'm seeing how the beautiful flow, and
Mhm.
how seasonal it is, and how we're so connected that way as women to be able to create this flow of energy and to be more intentional with our time and kind of choosing the path of least resistance, which I think
Yes.
is good. And that's when we can get into the flow and
Mhm.
it can happen naturally, because I've even seen for some of my clients, when they're talking about productivity, it's like, I can't get things done. I'm so filled with like mental fog right now, or, so it's really important to know that and to have that self-awareness. So I guess it really comes down to having that self-awareness and
Mhm.
really understanding, well, I guess it's having the knowledge, what you have here, of which that has been shared. And I'm sure going on to your Instagram and checking out your website for all the free resources that you said are available there, people can check that out. So having
Mhm.
that knowledge, having that self-awareness of how your cycle fits in the mix, and then scheduling accordingly. Is there anything
Absolutely.
else that you would add that you think is good to implement in this
I
process?
would. I think
Mhm.
a lot of us, I don't know about you, but I'm somewhat of a like type A perfectionist. And I can sometimes lean a little bit too much in like all or nothing versus being all in, right? You can be all in without being all or nothing. But a lot of women start to hear about this and they're very empowered, excited, like, yes, this is great. And then they might think like, well, my whole life can't be like that. Like I can't change my whole life to work around my menstrual phase. And that's true. Like you can't change every single aspect of your life to completely meld to your cycle. So where I like to approach it with my clients, again, is never a mindset of deprivation and restriction, always a mindset of what can we add to support our
Mhm.
body. And so there might be a scenario where you have to give a presentation in your luteal phase, or you have to be social in your menstrual phase and you're literally cringing at it. So if that happens, what activity can you add in afterwards to give your body that rest and nourishment? So like if you had to do a speaking event in your menstrual phase and you felt exhausted afterwards, maybe the next day or maybe that afternoon, you block off time to sit and quietly read or to binge on a Netflix show without guilt, right? Always thinking if you can't completely mold it to you, what can you add in to support yourself on the back end?
I love that. That's very realistic, which I think
Right?
is really important and can help us alleviate the pressure of, oh, damn, like when you're doing the scheduling, all of these things that are already established there, which is so beautiful. And with that being said, if they're listening and they're like, oh, I love her energy. I've learned so much. I want to dive deeper into this. Where can they connect with you and learn more and get some of the free resources that you have available?
Absolutely. So, as you said earlier, I am a total millennial. I love Instagram. That's where I do most of my social media. So, you can find me on my Instagram at Tasha_Lynn_Stevens. Also, if you visit our website, which is www.happyhormonehealthllc.com, you right on that front page, there is a link to a free hormone assessment where it allows you to understand what your symptoms are telling you and gives you a customized blueprint of strategies to implement immediately to support them. We have a couple master classes on there for you to dive into on a bunch of different topics and a few free guidebooks on a few different areas of whatever you're looking for in your journey. So those are wonderful places to dive in and just kind of get your toes wet.
Amazing. This has been so informative. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge. Definitely go check out all the links in the bio or in the description of this video or the show notes so that you can connect with her. Go and show her some love. Say that we connected you through this podcast episode. And thank you so much again for coming on. Do you have
Thank you
any
for
final words
having
you want to share before we hop off today?
No, just never get discouraged by your hormones. They're your superpower. And I'm telling you, you're going to unlock some amazing things in your business and your growth when you tap into this. So I'm excited to hear everyone's success stories.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I'll upload a new video on Thursday. See you in the next one. Bye.